I caught the sound before I saw what was happening. My brother's voice, loud and mean, echoing from the other side of the hallway. I knew that tone. I'd heard it too many times growing up. But this time, it wasn't aimed at me. I pushed open the office door, and there he was, Preston. He was in full VR gear, headset pushed halfway up his forehead, his hands waving like he was still in some kind of simulation. Jules, my fiancée, was backed up against the wall, both palms up, eyes wide. She looked scared, real fear, not just startled or frustrated. "You think you can block me?" Preston yelled. "You think I don't know how to get past a basic perimeter app? You stupid little..." "Hey," I shouted. "Get away from her." He didn't move. He was too far gone. Whatever argument they'd been having inside the VR game had spilled into real life. His voice cracked with rage as he leaned in closer to Jules. I saw his hand ball into a fist. That's when I pulled out my phone and hit record. Preston finally turned when he noticed me standing there. "Leo, put that down." "No," I said. "You're done. You little traitor." He lunged toward me, but Jules slipped between us. "Don't touch him," she said. Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. I called the police right in front of him, told them everything, sent them the video before the officer even finished asking questions. By the time they showed up, Preston had gone eerily quiet, like he knew exactly how bad this looked. He tried to talk his way out of it, said it was all a misunderstanding, just a VR glitch gone wrong. But the cops didn't care. Not with the footage on my phone. He was arrested right there in our living room. By nightfall, I was the villain. "Do you even realize what you've done?" my mom said, standing in the kitchen with her arms crossed like I was some misbehaving teen. "You've destroyed your brother's career." My dad just looked at me like I was an inconvenience, like I'd broken something expensive. "He was the CTO," my father muttered, "the future of the company. And you threw that away over a fight with his girlfriend?" "She's not just his girlfriend. She's my fiancée," I said. "And he threatened her." "Don't exaggerate," my mom snapped. The garbage bags were already by the front door. My dad tossed me a cheap plastic grocery sack with my phone charger and some socks. "You can go," he said flatly. "You're not safe here anymore." It didn't even feel real. I stood outside with 2 torn trash bags and my phone, staring at the house like maybe someone would change their mind. No one did. An hour later, headlights pulled into the driveway. I didn't recognize the car at first. Then the window rolled down. "You Leo?" the woman asked. She had Jules' eyes, same sharp edges. "Yeah, I'm Kara, Jules' sister." She told me what happened. "Get in." I hesitated for half a second, then opened the door. As we drove away, she glanced at me and said, "You know, I've suspected for years that something wasn't right with that guy." I didn't say anything. I just looked down at my phone, still clutched in my hand, and thought about everything that had just exploded. She drove fast, but safe, quiet, like someone used to crisis. And for the first time in hours, I let myself exhale. I wasn't safe, not yet, but I wasn't alone either. Kara's apartment smelled like coffee and printer ink. Not warm and cozy exactly, but safe. I sat cross-legged on her couch, still wearing the same hoodie I'd left home in, trying not to look as out of place as I felt. She dropped a USB stick onto the coffee table between us. "I've been collecting things for a while," she said. Jules never told me much, but I could see it. The way she flinched when her phone buzzed. The passwords she kept changing. And Preston? Something about him always creeped me out. I picked up the USB stick. "What's on here?" "Screenshots, messages, forum posts from his exes. Voice memos Jules sent me, stuff she deleted later, probably scared he'd find them." Preston was smart, but not as smart as he thought. I turned the stick over in my hands. My brain felt like it was firing on every cylinder, but still too slow to keep up. "I didn't know you were already looking into him." "I didn't know I was, either," she said. "Not until tonight." I leaned forward. "My parents knew. They always knew. But they made it about me instead." Kara tilted her head. "What do you mean?" I let out a breath. Anytime Preston blew up, trashed a room, broke a door, hurt someone, it was my fault. I was too sensitive. I escalated things. They made me get tested for mood disorders when I was 12 because I cried during one of his tantrums. Kara's expression didn't change, but her jaw clenched. Jesus, I thought I was the problem. Until tonight. My phone buzzed on the table. "Jules." I picked up, already standing. "Jules." Her voice was barely a whisper. "He found me." "What?" "He texted me from a new number. Different area code. The same phrases he used to say." "Leo, I blocked everything." How is he doing this?" Kara was already moving to grab her laptop. "Encrypted messaging apps," I said. "He always kept burner devices. One's not tied to the family cloud." Kara looked at me. "You think your mom gave them back?" "I think she never took them away in the first place." There was a long pause on the phone. "I don't feel safe," Jules said. "You're not alone," I told her. "I promise." When I hung up, Kara sat back down, cracking her knuckles. "I know someone. Dr. Meera Patel. She's a whistleblower attorney who specializes in tech abuse and digital coercion cases. She's been trying to map out patterns like Preston's for years. I've sent her pieces of this before." "Is she legit?" "She's the reason one of the biggest fitness apps in the country had to pay out $100 million in a class action suit," Kara said. "Yeah, she's legit." I nodded slowly. "We need to talk to her," I said. "And if we're going to bring down Preston, we'll need more than one victim." I know about at least 3 settlements my mom handled personally. There were NDAs, bribes. I overheard the calls. Kara looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something shift in her eyes. Recognition. Not just that I believed her, that I'd been living it too. The videos weren't labeled anything obvious, just random timestamps buried in a hidden cloud folder I'd created years ago. I only remembered it existed because I used the same username for a burner gaming account. I clicked through the folder while Kara sat beside me, her laptop open, a growing list of red flags in a spreadsheet she was building for Dr. Patel. Then I saw it. 3 files, each one dated around the time of a major PR scandal my family quietly squashed. The first video was taken from an old home security cam, blurry but unmistakable. My mother, in a navy pantsuit, seated across from a crying woman in her 20s. A check slid across the glass coffee table, then a manila envelope. The woman hesitated, wiped her face, and signed the paper inside. Just remember, my mother said in the recording, we're doing this to protect everyone. Kara leaned forward. Oh my God. The second video, same room, different woman. She never said a word. My mother handed her a tablet. She tapped a few times, signed digitally. Another envelope, another check. The third one made me physically recoil, because in that one, it was my mom again, but this time she was on the phone, pacing, while holding the checks in one hand and laughing quietly. I told Preston he needs to stop using interns like vending machines, she said. But as long as we keep a lid on the mess, no one cares. HR's just theater anyway. Kara slammed her laptop shut. That's enough. We're sending this. But I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking. What kind of people just? A sob from the hallway cut me off. Jules. She had come over quietly, probably hoping to sit with us. Now she was collapsed on the floor, her back against the wall, arms wrapped around her stomach, like she was bracing for an impact that already hit. I'm pregnant, she said, her voice cracking. Kara rushed to her. What? I found out 2 days ago. I wasn't going to tell anyone yet, but she looked up at me. If he finds out, he'll never stop. I knelt next to her. He won't. We're going to stop him first. Kara pulled out her phone. Dr. Patel needs to see these. Tonight. Dr. Patel responded in under 10 minutes. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. These videos are admissible, she said on speaker. We now have grounds for federal inquiry. The NDA violations are secondary to the financial coercion and pattern of retaliation. You think this can really go somewhere? I asked. There's enough here to bury them, she replied. But it will get dangerous. You need to lock everything down. An hour later, we started backing up the files to multiple encrypted drives. I was halfway through password protecting the archive when the living room window shattered. A brick hit the floor. Glass everywhere. Jules screamed. Kara pulled her back. I lunged forward and saw the note taped to the brick. 2 words, written in my mother's handwriting. Walk away. That night, while boarding up the broken window, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. A low, gravelly voice. Leo, this is Walter Devine, the CEO, Preston's mentor, the man who once told me I lacked discipline for the family brand. I want to offer you something, he continued. A full scholarship, a signing bonus. You'll intern directly under me. No strings. Just rescind your claims. Publicly. You're bribing me. I'm giving you a future. You're terrified, I said. And you should be. Then I hung up. No more garbage bags. No more silence. This time, they were going to answer for everything. It started at 6:47 a.m. with a knock at the door, loud, official. Kara peeked through the peephole and froze. 2 uniforms. 1 plain clothes, she whispered. They've got a clipboard. My stomach dropped. She cracked the door an inch. Can I help you? The older one stepped forward. We're here on a welfare check. Got a report that a young man living here may be a threat to himself and others. I stepped into view. That's me. The plainclothes officer squinted at me. Leo Whitlock. Who filed this? Kara asked. Ma'am, we can't disclose. You're not coming in without a warrant, I said. And this one's fake. Kara held up her phone, already recording. You're being filmed, she said. So unless there's a court order or immediate danger, we're done here. They backed off quickly after that, muttering about paperwork and protocols. But they weren't expecting us to be ready. Dr. Patel had warned us something like this might happen. After they left, I logged into my bank. Frozen, savings, checking, even my backup prepaid card, all locked. Kara checked hers. Still fine. I tried logging into my online accounts. My student portal was gone. My social handle flagged for erratic behavior. Even my email said I was locked out for security reasons. They're erasing you, Kara said quietly. My parents must have activated the firm's security kill switch, I said. I always thought that was just a pitch. Digital sanitization for executives who needed to disappear. They're using it against you. The knock wasn't even the worst part. 3 hours later, a news story dropped on a niche tech blog, clearly a leak. The headline read, Estranged brother of CTO accused of mental instability, fraud. They used a yearbook photo of me looking glassy-eyed, next to one of Preston giving a TED Talk. The article mentioned emotional outbursts, academic irregularities, and possible criminal investigation into fabricated allegations. It painted me like I was just a bitter dropout with a vendetta. Kara looked like she was going to throw her laptop through the window. I sat on the edge of the couch, numb. Then, a knock, softer this time. We opened the door, cautiously. A woman stood there, maybe mid-60s, silver hair in a neat twist. She held a manila envelope to her chest like it was fragile. Leo, she asked. Yeah, I'm Miss Andrada. I worked in HR at your father's company before I took early retirement. Your parents destroyed my career because I filed a complaint about Preston. I never forgot. When I saw the news this morning, I knew I had to act. She handed me the envelope. Inside, sealed copies of my academic records, evaluations from therapists, proof that I'd never been unstable, never failed out, never lied. I kept these, she said, voice trembling. I always knew the truth might matter someday. I couldn't speak, just nodded as I held the papers against my chest like a life vest. That night, Kara said softly, they tried to erase you. They can't, I whispered. And this time, I believed it. The first red flag was Kara's gas tank being suspiciously low 2 mornings in a row. The second was the magnetic click she heard near the rear wheel well while reversing out of the parking lot. When she pulled over and crouched beneath the car, her hands came back with a matte black tracker the size of a lighter. We just stared at it on the kitchen table for a while. This is military grade, she muttered. Not something you get on Amazon. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. We both knew where it came from. A couple hours later, my friend Cal texted, Bro, just got a video of you assaulting some guy in an alley. WTF? I froze. The video was blurry, but clear enough. Someone who looked exactly like me shoving a stranger against a wall. Same hoodie, same haircut, same gait, but I'd never been in that alley. Hell, I hadn't left the apartment in 2 days. Deepfake. Cal followed up. I know it's fake. Just a heads up. Someone's sending this around. Kara gripped her phone tighter. They're not just trying to silence you. They're trying to erase your credibility entirely. That afternoon, 3 more friends messaged me. One said their HR rep had flagged the video. Another said they got a call from an anonymous tipster, implying I had a violent history. By sunset, I felt like I was unraveling. Every time I opened my phone, a new lie popped up about me. And then Kara's phone rang. It was the hospital. Jules had collapsed at her OB appointment. High blood pressure, risk of preterm labor. They'd stabilized her, but the doctor was concerned. Kara's face went pale. I took the phone. Can I speak to her? She's resting, the nurse said. But she asked us to let you know she's okay. For now. When we arrived at the hospital, Jules looked so small in that bed. Pale, exhausted. She smiled weakly and said, I'm still here. So is the baby. I sat beside her, fighting to keep my hands steady. I'm sorry, I whispered. You shouldn't be going through this. She shook her head. It's not your fault. But it's not just Preston anymore. You see that, right? Kara nodded behind me. It's a whole system. And they're scared of what we know. That night, Dr. Patel sent a federal investigator to the apartment. A sharp, quiet woman named Lynn. She had credentials, body armor under her jacket, and a federal evidence bag. We've confirmed a pattern of intimidation that qualifies under RICO, she said. This is now a racketeering case. Keep your phones on. Don't travel alone. Kara gave her the files. I gave her a copy of the deepfake. Lynn handed us burner phones and said, things will move quickly from here. The next day, Preston went online. A slick, black and white video. Him, sitting in some sterile studio. Eyes teary, voice raw. They're trying to cancel me, he said, for being a genius. For building something powerful, for loving the wrong woman. It went viral. Comments exploded. Supporters cropped up overnight. Hashtag Free Preston trended for an entire hour. Jules saw it on a hospital tablet. She turned her face toward the wall. Kara shut the screen off. You're safe, she whispered. No matter what he says, you're safe. But none of us believed that completely anymore. We knew what this really was now. Not a scandal, a war. Ezra showed up just after midnight. No warning, no headlights. Just a knock in the shape of his hoodie in the peephole. I opened the door cautiously. Can I come in? He asked, voice low. He looked thinner than I remembered, like the guilt had been eating him alive. Kara stood behind me, tense. I don't have long, Ezra said, but I have something bad. He pulled a small thumb drive from his jacket pocket. These are backups. Preston didn't know I kept them. He talks when he's drunk, worse when he thinks no one's watching. I plugged it into the laptop while Kara hovered over my shoulder. The folders loaded fast. Audio files, surveillance clips, chat logs. The first file opened with Preston's voice. Non-disclosure's just a fancy way of saying, shut up and take the money. Another one, server room's soundproof. You could throw a rager in there. No one would know. Then the videos, footage from company parties, blurred faces, flashing lights, women being dragged, some unconscious, some clearly intoxicated, into locked server rooms. The worst part? My mother's voice in one of the background clips. Calm, assuring, we'll handle this. PR can bury it. Kara sat down hard on the arm of the couch, hands over her mouth. He bragged about all of it, Ezra said. The payoffs. The girls, even the fake scholarship offer to you, Leo, said it was cheaper than fighting in court. I stared at the screen. Why are you showing us this now? Because I know they'll kill me if I don't say something. And because I didn't stop him. I laughed. I looked the other way. There was silence in the room, heavy like wet cement. Ezra stood. I copied the files to an offsite server. One of you should keep a backup somewhere they'll never reach. Don't trust the cloud. We nodded. Kara handed him an emergency phone and scribbled an address for safe housing we'd prearranged with Dr. Patel's team. He took it, nodded, and walked out without another word. The next day, Jules got a call. Her father. She hadn't spoken to him in over a year, since he politely asked her not to marry into a scandal. But now his voice was soft, kind. "Sweetheart," he said, "you don't have to testify. There's still time to make this go away." Jules froze. "You'd really say that to me now?" she said. "After everything?" "You don't understand what's at stake," he replied. "It's not just Preston. It's the company, your family. Think about what this is doing to your mother." "I'm thinking about my child," she said coldly, "and how she almost didn't make it because of what Preston did to me." When she hung up, she looked hollow. "My own father," she whispered. "He knew." We started moving that night. Kara pulled the hard drives. I packed the copies of the files. Lynn from the federal office had arranged temporary relocation and encrypted phones. We got in the car just after midnight and drove for hours, not stopping until we were 2 states over. We checked into a safe house with blackout curtains and soundproof walls. Dr. Patel's people called every 6 hours. Kara didn't sleep. The next evening, the news broke. Ezra Whitman, age 27, found dead in his apartment. Official cause, overdose. I knew better. He was clean, obsessed with his health, didn't even drink. Kara threw her coffee mug at the wall. Jules sat on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees. I opened Ezra's last message. It was a text sent at 1:42 a.m. just before he died. "If anything happens, the truth's with you now. Don't let them rewrite it." The indictments dropped on a Thursday. I was in the safe house kitchen heating up leftover pasta when Kara burst in, phone in hand, breathless. "They filed. RICO. Federal." I grabbed the phone. My brother's name led the list. Preston Whitlock, charged with racketeering, obstruction, and aggravated sexual assault. Then my parents. Then the CEO, Walter Devine, and 8 board members from Whitlock Dynamics. Dr. Patel called minutes later. "It's official. You started an avalanche. Leo, you okay?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "What happens now?" "Now the world sees what you've been living through." The news hit hard. Protesters swarmed the federal courthouse in D.C., signs with Jules' name. Preston's face crossed out. Demands for tech accountability. Kara and I stayed low, watching it all unfold on a muted TV. Then Kara stepped out to grab a package from the front porch. She didn't make it back in one piece. A man in a hoodie came out of nowhere and slammed her against the brick wall. She screamed, fought back. The door camera caught all of it, blurry but clear enough. I got there in time to scare him off, but she was bleeding from the mouth, shaking. "He called me a traitor," she whispered. "Said I ruined a genius." That night, the footage hit Twitter. Someone had already leaked the clip. #ProtectKara trended by morning. Then came the worst moment of my life. Jules was scheduled to testify the next day. She'd been cleared to travel by her OB team and had prepped with Dr. Patel for weeks. But that evening, she collapsed in the hallway of the safe house. They rushed her to the ER. The ultrasound was silent. No heartbeat. Kara sat beside her in the hospital room while I stood in the hallway, frozen. I could hear Jules crying through the closed door. Not loud, just broken, like something inside her had torn and would never quite seal shut again. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Preston, problem solved." I dropped the phone. Kara picked it up, read it, and calmly set it on the floor before stepping on it with her boot. "We're done playing defense," she said. The next day, leaked footage from an executive retreat surfaced on a public data dump. It showed Preston, red-faced, drunk, laughing about NDAs. "I call them girl gag orders," he slurred. "You can do anything, long as you got paper and payout." The audio hit every news cycle. Overnight, public opinion flipped. The once respected Whitlock family became national villains. Corporate heads scrambled to distance themselves. My name was no longer buried in the narrative. It was front and center. Whistleblower, survivor, witness. A week later, I got the letter. Subpoena. Congressional hearing on corporate abuse, privacy violations, and suppression through digital manipulation. They wanted me to testify. Kara sat with me at the kitchen table, her face pale and bruised, but steady. "You don't have to," she said. "I know, but if you do, everything changes." I looked down at my hands. They didn't shake. I was done hiding. "Then let's change everything," I said. The courtroom was silent when the verdict was read. Guilty on all 17 counts. Preston didn't flinch. He just stood there, jaw tight, like he'd been expecting it. I sat 3 rows behind him, Kara gripping my hand, press and cameras on every side. When the judge started reading the sentence, 25 years federal, no parole, Preston turned. He saw me, and he snapped. In one motion, he lunged past the defense table, arms outstretched. 2 marshals tackled him before he got halfway down the aisle. Kara screamed. I didn't move. I just watched him struggle like an animal, red-faced and furious. It was the most honest I'd ever seen him. The assault added another 5 years to his sentence. A week later, my parents accepted plea deals. Conspiracy, obstruction of justice, witness tampering. They walked into the courtroom in tailored suits and walked out in cuffs. The judge ordered all Whitlock family assets seized for restitution. The trust funds, the real estate, the offshore accounts, gone. They didn't look at me once. The media camped outside for days. Commentators speculated whether my parents would turn on Preston to save themselves. They didn't need to. The evidence already buried them. The company collapsed overnight. Federal agents seized all patents and infrastructure in a coordinated sweep. Kara and I watched the news as agents boxed up servers in the company's glass headquarters. my childhood's second home. Walter Devine, the CEO who once offered to buy my silence, resigned in disgrace. His severance was frozen under federal order. Dr. Patel called to tell us the policy reform package we helped draft was moving through the Senate. It included mandatory whistleblower protections for tech firms and oversight of internal NDA use in harassment settlements. I hope you realize, she said, none of this happens without you. I do, I replied. And for once, I didn't feel like a fraud saying it. Public opinion had done a full 180. People no longer saw me as the unstable dropout brother. Now I was the kid who stood up to a billion-dollar lie and survived. Reporters camped outside our temporary housing for days. We never answered the door. A podcast dubbed me the boy with the receipts. I hated that one the most. Kara and I took long walks at night, just to breathe. You good? She asked once, after we passed a bus stop plastered with my face, and the words integrity isn't quiet. No, I said, but I'm better than I was. Jules didn't say much those weeks. The grief hit her in waves. Some nights, she curled up on the couch with Kara and just cried until she fell asleep. I stayed up late, reading legal blogs, case law, policy drafts, trying to understand what came next. When Dr. Patel asked if I'd consider speaking at a tech ethics summit, I said no. Let the paper trail speak for itself, I told her. She laughed. It already is. And it would, because for once, the truth had a louder microphone than the money. I turned 18 in a county courthouse 3 states away, wearing a borrowed blazer that didn't quite fit. The judge was kind, if a little surprised. Ms. Reed, he said to Kara, you're petitioning for legal guardianship of an adult? I'm not replacing his mother, Kara said. I'm claiming him because she threw him out like trash, and I'm not done showing up. He signed the order without another question. Just like that, I had a legal parent again. One who never asked me to be quiet, never blamed me for surviving. We celebrated with milkshakes and greasy diner fries. After that, things moved fast. Miss Andrada pulled some strings through a nonprofit she'd joined. Within weeks, I had housing near a small college campus. I enrolled in a GED program and passed it on the first try. Kara cried when she saw the certificate. Told you weren't broken. I picked up a part-time job doing digital records work at a legal outreach center. Ironically, scanning the kinds of NDA paperwork that once buried people like Jules. And Jules, she kept going. She and Kara launched a nonprofit together, The Witness Line. It offered legal aid and tech literacy tools for people caught in corporate abuse cycles. Survivors from different states started reaching out. Donations came in waves. Jules ran the survivor support side. Quietly, bravely. She never spoke publicly about the miscarriage, but her presence was power enough. Every time she walked into the office, people stood a little taller. I stayed away from interviews. Kara did a podcast once. Jules agreed to a quote in a think piece. But me? I didn't want a microphone. I wanted peace. So when a documentary team asked to film us, I said no, until Kara reminded me it wasn't about us. It was about all the ones who hadn't been believed. I sat for one interview. Just one. I talked about the first moment I knew I was alone, and the first moment I realized I wasn't anymore. That was enough. The doc aired a year later. I didn't go to the premiere. I stayed home and folded laundry. Miss Andrada texted a photo of the standing ovation. Kara sent a blurry video of Jules smiling through tears. We didn't need applause. We had each other. That spring, I walked across a stage in a wrinkled graduation robe, my name announced for an associate's degree in public policy. Kara hooped from the bleachers. Jules clapped with both hands, tears running down her cheeks. When the speaker asked the crowd to recognize those who had overcome extraordinary odds, I didn't stand. I looked at Kara, and I stood for her, for Jules, for Ezra, for every person who had to sign silence to survive. And that night, for the first time since my whole world cracked open, I slept through the night without checking the locks. No headlines. No threats, just the sound of quiet, honest living. It was the biggest case of my career and the most personal. The Supreme Court ruling came in just before noon. 7-2. Whistleblower protections upheld. Corporate liability extended to tech firms that used digital tools to silence and retaliate against survivors. My name was on the opinion summary, not buried in footnotes, not anonymized. Kara and Jules flew in that morning, both dressed in soft gray, like it was a celebration and a funeral at once. Kara hugged me, so tight I thought she might crack my ribs. You did it, she whispered, and no one can take it back. Jules stood nearby, holding her daughter, Rosie, on her hip. Rosie was 2 and already had Kara's stubborn glare. She's the reason I didn't disappear, Jules said softly. The world she'll grow up in is safer because of you. I didn't say anything, just kissed Rosie on the forehead and blinked away the weight pressing behind my eyes. We spent the afternoon at my firm, watching the media scramble to adjust their talking points. Overnight, I'd gone from high-profile activist attorney to architect of a legal milestone. There were flowers, emails from old classmates, a request to appear on national television. I turned them all down. The next morning, I got in my car and drove 5 hours back to the town where everything began. The Whitlock house was still there. Empty now, the lawn overgrown, the gate rusted, The tech security posts long since removed by federal seizure. I parked down the block and walked the last bit on foot. No press, no neighbors, just the sound of summer cicadas and distant highway hum. The front door had been boarded up. I didn't try to go in. I circled around to the side yard, the one where I used to hide when my parents fought. I climbed through the same bent portion of fence I'd used as a kid, then knelt in the overgrown grass near the garden shed. It took a while, but I found it, buried in a plastic sandwich bag under a loose paving stone, just where I'd left it the day before Preston smashed my phone in 9th grade. A photo of me, age 7, sitting on the porch swing with a comic book in my lap and the world still wide open in front of me. I wiped the dirt off with my sleeve. The colors had faded, but the smile was still there. That version of me had no idea what was coming. The betrayal, the exile, the courtroom battles, the scars. But he'd smiled anyway. I folded the photo and put it in my wallet. That was all I came for. Back at the firm, Kara had framed the ruling and hung it in the lobby. Jules was organizing a conference for whistleblower attorneys. Miss Andrada was on the board of our education fund. And I was exactly where I wanted to be, building cases, drafting policy proposals, walking into rooms where no one could silence me anymore. People still tried to tell the story in sound bites. But the truth was quieter than that, slower, built brick by brick. I wasn't the boy with the phone anymore. I was the man who rewrote the rules.